Welcome to another episode of Supernatural Tales. Tonight, prepare yourself to hear a spine-chilling story that took place in the historic town of Savannah, Georgia. We will follow the account of Caroline Matthews, a tourist who decided to stay in an old colonial house and experienced events that defy understanding. Sit around the campfire and let the crackling flames accompany you on this dark journey. Caroline Matthews always had a fascination with the past. A historian by profession, she loved visiting old towns and immersing herself in the stories their buildings and streets had to tell. When she decided to spend a week in Savannah, she was looking for an authentic experience, preferably in one of the many colonial houses that dotted the city. She found the perfect house, an 18th century mansion located on a quiet street, surrounded by lush gardens. The house, now a guest house, exuded charm and history. When making the reservation, Caroline was informed that she would be the only guest during that period, which seemed like a unique opportunity to delve even deeper into the atmosphere. Caroline arrived in Savannah on a sunny afternoon. The innkeeper, Mrs. Isabel, a friendly lady with gray hair, greeted her warmly and led her to her room. The interior of the house was as impressive as the exterior, with antique furniture, oil paintings, and an atmosphere that seemed frozen in time. "I hope you enjoy your stay, my dear," said Mrs. Isabel with an enigmatic smile. "The house has a lot of history, and who knows, you might discover something interesting." On the first night, Caroline felt as if she were living in another century. After a delicious dinner, she decided to explore the house. Each room seemed to hold a fragment of the past, and she lost herself in the contemplation of the details. When she finally went to bed, she was exhausted but happy. However, in the dead of night, Caroline was awakened by a strange sound. It was a faint whisper, almost imperceptible, but clearly coming from within the room. She turned on the bedside lamp and looked around but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Thinking it had been a dream, she went back to sleep. The following night, Caroline was again woken by strange sounds, this time louder and more distinct. They were light footsteps, as if someone were walking down the hallway outside her room. She felt a chill run down her spine. She got up, opened the door, and peeked into the hallway. There was no one there. Only oppressive silence and shadow. On the third day, Caroline began to notice subtle changes in the house's atmosphere. The air was colder, and she felt a constant presence, as if she were being watched. She decided to speak to Mrs. Isabel, but the lady seemed evasive. "Oh, my dear, this house is very old. Sometimes the walls hold memories," she said, smiling. That night, Caroline decided to investigate further. After dinner, she grabbed a flashlight and went down to the basement, a place Mrs. Isabel had mentioned but seemed to have been forgotten. The basement was dark and damp, smelling of mold and old wood. Caroline walked slowly, illuminating the stone walls and dusty corners. Suddenly, she felt a chill when her flashlight illuminated something in the corner, an old mirror covered by a white sheet. When she pulled it off, it revealed a gilded frame mirror, stained by time. Looking into it, Caroline saw a figure behind her, a woman dressed in old-fashioned clothes, with a sad expression. She turned quickly, but there was no one there. Frightened, Caroline ran up the stairs and back to her room. Her mind was filled with questions and fear. She knew there was something more in that house, something trying to communicate. On the fourth night, Caroline was again awakened, this time by a soft cry. She followed the sound to one of the living rooms. Upon entering, she saw the figure of a woman sitting on the sofa, crying silently. Caroline felt a mix of fear and compassion. She approached slowly and, in a whisper, asked, "Who are you?" The woman raised her head, revealing a pale face and eyes full of pain. "My name is Anna," she said, her voice echoing eerily. "I've been trapped here for so long." Anna told Caroline a tragic story. She had been the wife of a wealthy merchant who had lived in the house centuries ago. However, her husband was a cruel man, and in a fit of jealousy, he killed her and buried her body somewhere on the property. Since then, her spirit could not find peace, wandering the house in search of justice and release. Caroline felt deep sadness for the tortured soul. She decided she needed to help Anna find rest. She spent the following days researching local archives, uncovering old records and maps of the property. In an old document, she found the probable location where Anna might be buried, a small hidden garden behind the house. On the last night of her stay, Caroline gathered her courage and went to the garden with a shovel. She dug for hours until she finally found something: skeletal remains wrapped in pieces of old fabric. She felt a mix of horror and relief. She knew she had found Anna. Mrs. Isabel, who had been watching from a distance, approached silently. "I knew you would find the truth," she said, her words full of meaning. "Anna deserves rest. This house deserves peace." With Isabel's help, Caroline arranged a small funeral for Anna. They placed the remains in a coffin and gave her a proper burial in a nearby cemetery. During the ceremony, Caroline felt a comforting presence beside her, as if Anna were finally at peace. That night, Caroline slept deeply for the first time since she arrived. There were no more whispers, footsteps, or cries. The house was in peaceful silence, as if a great weight had been lifted. As she said goodbye to Mrs. Isabel, Caroline felt deep gratitude. "Thank you for helping me find the truth," she said, hugging the lady. Isabel smiled, her eyes shining with ancient wisdom. "The truth always finds its way, my dear. And you were the key to freeing this house." Caroline left Savannah with a sense of fulfillment and peace. She knew she had made a difference, not just for Anna but for all who would come to inhabit that house. Anna's story would never be forgotten, and the haunted house of Savannah had finally found peace. And so ends today's tale. I hope you felt the same tension and mystery that Caroline felt that night. Until the next episode of Supernatural Tales, where new haunting stories await to be told. Good night, and remember, sometimes the past is never truly dead, just waiting to be discovered.